Welcome, everybody, to the Subway Conversation Chat on Driving to the Top Productions. My name is Jamie Malloy, the ultimate Yankees fan, and this is our first show. And without further ado, let's bring on my co-host, an ultimate Mets fan. Everybody, please welcome back the Honorable Joe Dalio. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It's going great, Jamie. How you doing?
Good. We talked about backstage how we couldn't see each other, but look, I go live and magically we show up. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's always good when the technical difficulties happen backstage instead of live during the production. So I'm glad it turned out good here.
Good.
Again,
No,
like
yes, no.
we were saying backstage, I was like I'm in shock that baseball season is this close, and this show that we've been talking about for a while, we actually get to make happen here. So very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm glad to do this. And fans and viewers, you're gonna see this because this is our first show. I'd like you guys to check out my background and see what I got here. It's a Yankees banner that my father purchased. So I thanked him for that and helped me be a part of the show with this. So thank you, Dad, very much for this background. You really helped me out a lot with that. So yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of things regarding the Mets and the Yankees, and you probably already know us from the Buffalo Sports conversation when we talk about the NFL and the Bills. But that show's on shelf right now until next season. But now it's time for us to move on to our next favorite teams, the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. So let's begin. Are you ready to begin, Joe?
Yes, I am definitely ready. Like I said, kind of in shock that we're here, but very excited at the same time. So can't
Me
wait to talk
too.
about it. You know, we're big football fans and everything. Now I can only speak for myself. I don't know about you, but as much as I love football, I love baseball even more. You know, and I think I know a little bit more about baseball than I do football. I guess we'll let the audience be the judge of that as time goes on. But definitely, I get more excited about baseball than I do football. So I'm looking very much forward to this.
Me too. And the reason why I get excited about baseball now is I've loved it since I was a little kid. I've always been a diehard Yankees fan because of my grandpa, who was when he was alive, he was a Yankee fan, and we always watched the games. And I think now he would really like the pitch clock in the game now to watch the games to make the games go faster. I know I enjoy that. You enjoy that, and I know I get it. There's people on the other side who think it makes the games go faster on TV, but it's harder to watch it live because you might miss something. But hey, it has its positives and negatives, and they're always gonna continue to tweak it as it's now in the clock's in its second year. So
hmm I'm a big fan of it. I just, I can actually watch a whole game again. You know, on a busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to watch a 3.5 hour baseball game, and now to watch a 2.5 hour game is certainly more manageable. So, big fan, and we'll talk about those things as time goes on as well.
it's basically no different than football or basketball or hockey now, the pace of the games now.
That's
So
right.
yeah, which is cool. So it looks like anyway, Garrett Cole is out for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And that's actually really positive news
Mhm.
because the 33-year-old is dealing with nerve inflammation in his throwing elbow. And he will probably just use the next 3 to 4 weeks to regroup for the next steps. And like I said, it's positive news because thankfully the ace thrower, he doesn't require Tommy John surgery and isn't out for the whole year. And
Right.
the Yankees will still have a strong rotation with Nestor Cortez, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman from your Mets, Joe,
hmm
uh, and then Clark Schmidt to help relieve Cole until he comes back. And speaking of Nestor Cortez, he was named the opening starter in place of Garrett Cole, who's sidelined. And I think that's a great idea. Nestor's worked very, very hard since being drafted by the Yankees in 2013 and then being with the Baltimore Orioles and then coming back to the Yankees to get to where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody better deserving than him. He throws a really nice cutter ball. His fastball's good too, and he throws a nice variety of pitches too. He just doesn't throw right down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so last Friday, the Yankees announced that Cortez would be the starting pitcher when the Yankees traveled to Houston for their opening game on March 28th. The 2022 All-Star compiled a 12-4 record with a 2.44 ERA in 2022, and he looked like the Nestor Cortez Yankees fans know and love. Unfortunately, 2023 was a down year for him as he started a brief 12 games with a nagging shoulder injury. Now, one cool thing that baseball also added in spring training was the spring breakout prospects game, which I think is really cool for the league. And so on Saturday, March 16th, the Yankees prospects hosted the Toronto Blue Jays prospects at George M. Steinbruner Field in Tampa. And this was the first of any kind of spring training futures game for the MLB, as they normally do a all-star game and a futures game during all-star weekend. But to do a regular game and then a spring breakout prospect futures game in spring training is another great thing for the league. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees were highlighted by Spencer Jones, 2 home runs, and lefty southpaw prospect Brooke Shields did well too. As a third rounder of the 2021 draft, threw a 91 to 95 mile an hour fastball with good movement on it. So, so Joe, what do you think of the MLB adding this kind of futures prospect game in spring training? I think it's good for the league because when you're there at spring training, it kind of gets boring already seeing the guys that you already know are going to make the team. So they figure, why not shake it up and let the fans see the stars of tomorrow from both teams, the young guys playing together on a major league training field, gaining chemistry and seeing what they could do in case if they get called up.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea. I'm going to go back a second to what you were talking about, Nestor Cortez. Big year for him because he had such a great 2022 and then, kind of down last year. So the Yankees need him. This is a big year for Nestor. And I honestly think he'll come back. But answering your question about the prospects game, I think it's an excellent idea. I'm one of those people, I really like to follow the MLB, prospects pipeline. MLB.com always has like the top 100 prospects, and they break it down overall, and they have team by team prospects. So to have opportunities to see these guys, maybe even, before they're on a major league level, I think is an excellent idea. And I'm certainly going to want to see that. In fact, I'd probably rather see that during the spring than an actual spring training game for the reasons you mentioned. I mean, of course, we get to see the players that we love and watch throughout the season. But after a while, it's like, all right, we've seen them, and let's get to the regular season. But to have a chance to see prospects before they actually play in the major leagues, I think is a great opportunity, and I'm all for that. So I'm certainly hoping that we see more of that.
It's going to make the better players for it, and especially Toronto and the Yankees both have excellent prospects. As I mentioned, Spencer Jones, I think he's a clone of Aaron Judge. He's like 6'8", can really hit the ball with some power. And that lefty southpaw kind of reminds me of a young Randy Johnson. He's 6'7" and he's got wicked stuff on his fastball. So
Isn't that weird to say, though, that the Yankees having some excellent prospects and a good farm system? We're not used to hearing that, right? Because from past and relying on free agents and things like that. But, if you're a Yankees fan, it's good to know that you have some great prospects here, that potentially come up soon here.
It's different now because you got Steinbrenner's kids running the team
Mhm.
now, and the kids believe in more growing your team organically, whereas the father was old school, spend whatever it took to win.
Right.
So that's why. But speaking of prospects, Joe, how did some of the Mets prospects look in their game?
The Mets are having some issues with their prospects. I mean, the one going down with an ACL injury in the beginning of this, or playing winter ball. So him being gone, and Ronald Acuna, they during one of the trades, I think the Scherzer trade that they traded to the Rangers, they got Luis Angel Acuna, who's the Braves player's brother here.
Ronald
So
Acuna, yeah.
Ronald Acuna's brother. And so we were looking forward to seeing him. He got sent down though pretty early in the spring. You know, some of the players from last year, I'm very curious to see, excuse me, how they're going to produce here. Like, Brett Beatty, not so much a prospect. He played all last year pretty much, and he got sent down a couple of times. And, he was actually called up late in 22. Interesting to see how he's going to do. And he's doing pretty well this spring. Last year, Mark Vientos got a lot of playing time for the Mets, and he had his bumps and bruises, but he's having a very good spring here. So, excuse me. Still have some lingering COVID effects here from a couple of weeks ago. So forgive me if I cough into the mic here. But, Vientos has had a good spring for the Mets. Catcher Alvarez, who had a great year last year, is having a great spring. So all signs point to him, having another excellent season and taking his play to another level. So, I haven't seen any of these prospects, and really I haven't watched a lot of spring training games, but I think there's some reason for optimism there, and just to kind of keep an eye on these guys and see where they're going to go. So we shall see.
Yeah, we shall definitely see it. One thing, the Mets have this year as a new manager, and he happened to be the former Yankees bench coach under Aaron Boone by the name of Carlos Mendoza. Carlos Mendoza. So
Mhm.
yeah. So what do you think of him as manager? How do you think he's going to be able to put all these young prospects together with a guy named Pete Alonso, who's older and wants a contract extension, but he knows it might be a challenge playing with all these young kids around him and a first-year manager in Mendoza?
Yeah, more on that Pete Alonso comment in a second, because that's the biggest deal of this Mets team, I think. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think Mendoza is a good manager to have for this type of team. You never know what you're going to get with these managers that really haven't had a chance to prove themselves. The Mets have had some guys come in that they tried and really weren't too successful. And it's just like the NFL. You get new coaches that sometimes have low expectations and just go through the roof and become amazing NFL coaches. And same with Major League Baseball managers. You got some that nobody has heard of and nobody really expects much from, and just completely explode. In the Mets case, some guy named Dave Johnson years ago. Nobody expected anything from him, and he brought him a World Series 2 years after he got to the team. So, I'm not saying that Mendoza is going to do that, but he could be one of those managers that nobody's talking about right now, but years down the road we look back and say, wow, what a find that was. This guy's one of the better managers in the league. There's also the flop potential, and it's possible that he's known for handling young players well, but it's very possible that maybe he doesn't manage them as well as people think. Again, without knowing too much, I'm optimistic, to be honest with you, and I think he's a good manager for this team, and I think we'll see that as time goes on. Just as long as we see these guys hustling, as long as we see these guys playing all out, as long as we see these guys playing with their hearts, and really trying to make impressions and take their games to another level, then I think he's doing the right thing. And we'll see as the season goes on. I'll take this time to talk about Pete Alonso, and I don't know, this Mets fan's opinion, that is the number one order of business to take care of. Now, I'm reading things. I don't like the way the Mets are handling this. I'm reading things that they're not going to be talking during the season, and he's not going to be signed during this year. And he's the heart and soul of the franchise. And he's the guy you're building all of these young guys around. And you need to have a guy like him on this team. He wants to be with the Mets. He wants to play his entire career with the Mets. He still, I don't think, has hit his peak yet. So I think we haven't seen the best of Pete Alonso yet. And I mean, that certainly, I believe has to happen with the Mets. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't like the way they're handling this. And I just have this fear that, the Mets, things don't go as planned, and it's not a good year, and they're nowhere near signing him. And, he's not with them at the end of the year. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm thinking and hoping they're smart enough to get him signed long term. But we haven't seen the best of Pete Alonso yet. And as a Mets fan, I want to see that happen. I want to see him reach his peak with the Mets, and I want to see them build this young core around him, and have them go places in the next couple of years. So it would be a huge mistake if they let Pete Alonso go, and they better make it obvious that they want to keep him, because he's made it obvious that he wants to stay. He knows it's going to be a down year this year, and I think if he if he gets the feeling that this team has the potential to be a championship team, even if it's 2 or 3 years away, I think that's incentive enough for him to stay. And again, he's made it obvious that he wants to stay. They're going to have to make it very obvious to him that they want him to be a part of this rebuilding plan here.
Yeah, and he knows it's a down year, but he's going to be able to groom a lot of really good young players that could mold into that championship form that you want as a Mets fan. So,
and I think he would cherish that role, especially being with the Mets. He would love to be the guy that they look up to, and that's the team leader. He's made for that, especially in New York. So hopefully they make strides and they do what they have to do to
kind of like what Darryl Strawberry did for the Mets that beat the Red Sox in '86. He was kind of that guy who came in and was a good player of his own, but he also helped the young guys around him, like Gary Carter and Wally Backman and guys like that. And he's the one who kept the glue together, and they groomed all their young talent through the system back then. And that's how they won the World Series then.
That's right. So I think they can do it the same way here.
Yeah. So, anyway, back to Yankee news. Aaron Judge, an injury update. He it was finally back tonight. He played, and he hasn't played since March 10th. He had an MRI on his abdominal area regarding his core injury, but Aaron Boone reported that Judge has no abdominal tear, which is great, and he wanted to get images and screens and pictures of it just to be sure. And good news, folks, Yankee fans, Judge is back. He was playing in his first game as we spoke against the Pirates, and I'm very happy. That's a great sign. Aaron Judge is like the Pete Alonso of the Yankees, and he knows this team could be really, really great because now they got Juan Soto and Stanton around him and a much deeper lineup and some young guys coming back in their second year, like Anthony Volpe, second year at shortstop, who is projected to be an all-star candidate by some media outlets in only a second year. And and right now the Yankees look like they could be a really strong hitting team if they knock on wood, stay healthy, and the pitching
Mhm.
rotation looks really good.
Yeah, and baseball's missing something if Aaron Judge is not in the lineup. Everybody, as a Major League Baseball fan, I want to see Aaron Judge. I want to see all of those guys, in the lineup on a regular basis. So that's good news that, looks like he's going to be okay.
Yep, absolutely. But now we have to talk about DJ LeMahieu and the elephant in the room. LeMahieu has missed some time after fouling off a ball on his left foot. Luckily, x-rays came back negative for a fracture, but he still has a major bruise on his foot that he'll have to just hope that goes away naturally and takes good care of it. And Aaron Boone said that he was not committal if LeMahieu would go on the injured list, but was very happy with the outcome of tests.
Good.
And so who but has been in the house for the New York Yankees, but none other than legend. And Joe, you would know he was a former Mets manager before he came to the Yankees and also the Braves, Joe Torre.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Joe Torre has been visiting as a spring training guest instructor for the past week. Aaron Boone invited the 4-time World Series champion manager to come to Florida to put on the Yankees uniform again. And he said he wanted to come, but he wasn't so sure about putting on the uniform, but Boone convinced him. And lo and behold, was one of the special things Torre was able to do was take out Carlos Rodon on a Monday's game against the Phillies. And like old times, he made his way out to the first baseline and pointed to the right field bullpen and earned a standing ovation from the Yankees fans. And I think, Joe, as us being Yankee and Mets fans, that's beautiful to see a guy like Joe Torre go back to his old roots just for a day and get that same cheer from the crowd that he got back in his days as manager. That's always wonderful to see.
I think that's very classy, to be honest with you. That's a great thing to do, just to show that we're never going to forget all the good that you did for this team. And I think that's just a great move by the organization to do that. I'm sure Joe Torre felt like $1 million to, for that acknowledgement. So, that's a classy move by the Yankees for sure.
Yeah, and one of the classy things he did as manager was he knew when he came in that the New York media is very, very fickle. We know that, the New York City media. And he actually had made his players not talk to the media after games. Only he talked to them. And it actually seemed to the players seemed to enjoy that because they were just able to focus on the game. And Joe Torre brought a calm demeanor and presence that New York just fell in love with. And so that those two things helped the Yankees become as successful as they were.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now it is that time in our show for our question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try?
Yes. Now, I said I know more about baseball than I do football. Now, I don't want to jinx myself and get all these questions wrong and kind of make a fool out of myself. But, all right, yes, I'm ready. Bring it on.
Okay, Joe, here's your question. Can you guess who this MLB player is? He has 2 straight MVPs, played on 3 teams, and is a Hall of Famer. Is it A-Rod, Vlad Guerrero Sr., Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt, or Ken Griffey Jr.?
Oh, my goodness. Played on 3 teams, you said?
Yes.
All right. Can you I need to stall. Can you name the players one more time?
Yes, I can. Is it A-Rod, Vlad Guerrero Sr., Frank Thomas, a.k.a. the Big Hurt, or Ken Griffey Jr.?
3 teams. Griffey, I don't think Griffey played on 3. Frank Thomas. Thinking, did A-Rod? No, A-Rod played on. No, he might have played on 3. All right, so I'm sorry. A-Rod, Thomas, Griffey, and who was the fourth one?
Vlad Guerrero Sr.
Vlad Sr. Okay. I don't think he had 2 straight MVPs. All right, I'm going to go with Alex Rodriguez.
Nope. It was Frank Thomas. You were right about A-Rod, though. He did play for 3 teams, though: the Rangers, the Mariners, and the Yankees.
Right. Okay.
Frank Thomas was the A's, the White Sox, and the third one I think was Florida Marlins, I think.
Okay. I just don't remember him getting 2 MVPs. That's why that threw me off. You know, I knew I thought he maybe played on 3 teams, but I don't remember him getting MVP. Excuse me. So
they used to call him the Big Hurt all the time.
Yeah. Does it say what year the MVPs were?
No, it didn't.
That's fine.
Put a specific year. But yeah, speaking of Frank Thomas, if you want to know what he's up to now, he does those man boosting testosterone commercials now with Doug Flutie and everything, which is really cool.
Isn't he on like the MLB network too or something?
Yeah, he is.
Saw him on TV, and you know, my cable system doesn't get the MLB network anymore, but you know, but I've seen him, you know, previously on there.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great that I didn't remember he got 2 MVPs. I thought maybe Alex Rodriguez earlier in his career had gotten a couple of MVPs, but I guess not.
No, he did with the Yankees in 2005.
He just got the 1?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
That's the one I remember, at least.
Okay.
So now I'd like to turn it over to you, Joe, for some Mets news, if you got some for us. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a look. I saw this article today, and the Mets came, they put out their starting rotation for the first week of the season. And I guess I wasn't too surprised. Let me see. All right, so they're going to start with Quintana in the first game. Excuse me. You know, they sent a few pitchers down. They decided to keep Tyler McGill, who sometimes he's, you know, pitches like he's Cy Young, and sometimes he pitches like, you know, like he's throwing a beach ball. So we'll see which McGill shows up for them. But they set the first week. Quintana's going to start opening day against the Brewers on the 28th. And this is the first year in a while, I think, that the Mets are starting at home. It's been at least 2 or 3 years since they started at Citi Field. So, you know, that's kind of cool. And then Yankee fans might recognize this name, Mr. Severino, starting the second game on the 30th. Same thing against the Brewers. So I'm very excited to see how he's going to do. I'm going to be honest, my expectations for Severino are pretty low, just because things didn't end well with the Yankees. However, I think, you know, he can make a difference on this pitching staff. And right now, you know, they don't have a lot of depth on in starting pitching. So I you know, if he can carry this team and, well, not carry them, but at least carry his weight and, you know, pitch decently every few days, I think that would be good. And then, you know, we got McGill. And then I think an interesting wild card here is Sean Manaea that the Mets picked up. And, you know, he's battled through injuries. He's had flashes of brilliance and, of course, a lot of flashes of mediocrity as well. And just a big battle with Manaea is trying to stay healthy here. If he could do that, again, I think it's a step up for this Mets pitching staff. So we'll see how that goes. And then they also picked up Adrian Hauser from Milwaukee, who's basically on as a 5th starter. They were saying McGill would be like the 5th starter, but they kind of wanted to set like a good righty-lefty rotation. So that's why they have McGill as the 3rd pitcher right now. And, you know, we'll see how that goes. But again, Adrian Hauser, he's another wild card, you know, again, kind of had mediocre results with the Brewers the last couple of years. But again, the Mets need all the help they can get. And they have some good veteran starters that if they get the good sides of these pitchers, then the Mets could have an above average starting pitching staff. Relief pitching, of course, we're going to hear the trumpets again this year. As Edwin Diaz is back, he seems healthy. He seems ready to go. He's pitching well in the spring. So, I think that's a big boost. Are we going to get the potential MVP type season we had a couple of years ago? That remains to be seen. But again, everybody's optimistic about that. Again, Diaz said he feels great and he's ready to go. I love having Adam Ottavino in there. Again, he's a very reliable eighth inning pitcher. If Diaz goes down or is ineffective, Ottavino is somebody I think they could use as a closer if they had to. I think the back end of the pitching there is much better with Diaz as the closer, and hopefully it stays that way. But Ottavino is very reliable there as well. And then just a couple of guys that have been there, Drew Smith and people like that again, some days are great, some days are not. And it just remains to be seen. So, the Mets could have a good to very good pitching staff, or they could have a below average one that's going to cause problems throughout the season. So, it was exciting to see that was set up. A couple other things too. Somebody that was doing really well in spring training for the Mets is a guy named Trace Thompson. And this is a guy that seems to do well with teams when he first starts with them and then just kind of tails off. And, he's been around with a few teams and he was playing really well for the Mets. And again, I didn't really see games. I didn't see him in action, but they sent him down to the minor leagues either today or yesterday. So interesting to see how that plays out, or, if he gets up and gets a chance with them. But, as I said before, it's going to be interesting to see how the guys, I think, again, Alonso is going to be Alonso, Lindor is going to be Lindor. These guys, I expect to have solid years and to be those players. Brandon Nimmo is going to be Brandon Nimmo again. But, they seem to have better depth, I guess. And instead of being that team, this is what I'm looking more forward to here is are the results going to be there for the Mets? I don't think so. I think they're a 500 team at their best, maybe a playoff team at their worst, a huge, 72 win disappointment. So I think they win between 80 and 85 games, if honestly. Last year in the beginning of the season, this team was brutal to watch, and just the lack of heart, just these guys didn't seem to have their hearts in it, and lost games that they should have won, and all kinds of things. And then when they kind of blew it up, you kind of got a little renewal in there, and they lost more than they won, but they were fun to watch. And that's what I'm thinking and hoping is going to happen this year. They may lose more games than they win, but I think we're going to see a team that's fun to watch. I think we're going to see guys that enjoy playing for this manager and that are going to hustle and are going to, play their best. And some of them, could be playing for jobs. Jeff McNeil, I think, is somebody nobody's talking about that I think will have a better season this season. I always say what hurt him last year was the shift ban. He won the batting title in 2022 because he seemed like the only major league hitter in baseball that would purposely hit against the shift. That's why at first I was against banning the shift. I'm like, these guys are major league players. If you don't want these guys shifting on you, then hit it the other way and hit it where the players aren't in the field. And you would watch Jeff McNeil get up to the plate every single at bat, and he would look and see exactly where they were playing him, and he would hit it the other way. And that's how he won a batting title. In fact, he made a comment that he was laughing at these people. He's like, I cannot believe they're still shifting on me here because I keep hitting it the other way and I keep racking up hits. And when they banned the shift and he didn't have those openings like he had the year before, he struggled, pretty badly in the beginning of the season. But he's a great hitter, and I think he's going to learn now to adapt to this. And I think you're going to see a Jeff McNeil that is not going to win a batting title, but he may end up making more contributions than people are expecting. So, he's another good guy to have around. And the core of this team is the same. Again, guys like Nimmo, who always gets on base, and McNeil, who could do the same, and Lindor and Alonso with their production, and Alvarez, who's smacking home runs still, and still developing as a player and a catcher. So the core of this team, again, if they're at their best, could be very exciting and could be a potential playoff team. And that's certainly not out of the question. But regardless, I think we're going to see a team that's a lot more full of heart, and that's going to be a lot more fun to watch. And that's really what I'm looking forward to the most here. So, interesting to see. And there's still going to be moves made, beforehand. But, stay tuned.
Yep, indeed. Stay tuned. I actually want to take this time that we actually have a buddy of mine, a coworker of mine, by the name of Greg Simback, who commented on our show, and I'm going to read it here. It says, "Great show, Jamie." And I said, thank you so much, Greg. And don't forget, guys, I'm going to keep reminding our viewers and listeners, new and old and everything, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Driving to the Top Productions. Please do that. It'll help us out a lot. And thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for the comment. That's awesome.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you on social media on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024?
Wednesday, March 20th. What are we? 8 days away from opening day. Actually, I shouldn't say 8 days from opening day, because there was an actual regular season game today, right?
Yeah, in South Korea.
In South Korea, and another one tomorrow. So that's pretty awesome. So, but 8 days away from the true opening day that where everybody plays. And I think every single team is playing on the 28th there. So we'll be talking about that. Joe Dell Sports on Twitter. X is where you can find me on social media.
And then you can find me, yours truly, on Bill's chat, one at Bill's Mafia chat, and also Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dogtags on X. And also you can check me out on theforkball.com, where I write stories about all sports, and I even sometimes are a guest on their podcast too. So thank you very much for listening, folks. Don't forget to, like I said, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Driving the Top Productions. And to quote the late Bob Shepard, your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to Subway Conversation Chat with Jamie and Joe. See you next week, folks.
Have a great week.